to have 30 minutes. Yeah. Okay, that you will serve me 10 minutes if you carry that. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, esteemed colleagues in physiology, honored guests, distinguished professors, good morning to you all.
Good
Morning.
My name is Dr. Faraj, Alkizim. As has been said, I'm the council representative from Kenya to EASPS. I am an orthopedic surgeon by profession and a medical physiologist by passion. Many people in my country keep asking me, what is a human carpenter? That's what they call us. They ask me, what is a human carpenter doing teaching physiology? And I say to them what has been said here repeatedly by PC professors. Medical physiology, or physiology generally, is the backbone of medicine. And therefore, as I practice surgery and human carpentry, I'm actually practicing in vivo physiology and restoring structures, restoring normal physiology. And even my students, I normally tell them that physiology, as professors say, there are actually two subjects in medicine. There's physiology and there's the rest. Really falls under the rest. Ladies and gentlemen, I felt very proud yesterday when we were having the introductions. We were called to wave and get ourselves introduced. And I noticed that as of my count, the Kenyan delegation was actually the largest international delegation. I don't know whether the count is still the same. So I felt very proud of my team. And would like to request once after this during tea break, if you wouldn't mind, just have a group photo, that's number one. And number two, I'd also like to convey an invitation from EASPS president during tea break. We'd like to have tea together for a few minutes. I also noticed that we had the largest number of professors, including my teacher there, who has been hammering physiology into me several times. So, well done, Team Kenya. Colleagues, I have the honor of standing before you to recap an exhilarating first day of an amazing conference hosted by East Africa Society of Physiological Sciences in collaboration with African Physiology and in collaboration with various other partners that we have had introduced to ourselves. During this conference, our collective pursuit of understanding the intricacy of the human body has ignited intellectual sparks, fostered a dynamic exchange of ideas. In the various sessions from yesterday, we delved into the complexities of very complex cell physiology at molecular level, cardiovascular system at molecular level, endocrine, diabetes, neurophysiology, exercise physiology, among very exciting topics. The discussions were not just scientific, but they were actually a window for us to peek into the future as they promised transformative advancements. The captivating addresses illuminated groundbreaking research into the advanced arrays in insightful presentation. Each speaker added to the rich wealth of physiology knowledge. The enthusiasm and the dedication demonstrated by the researchers have fueled the shared commitment to the advancements of physiology. Now, to reflect on the day briefly. Yesterday we began the day with a walk down history lane by the president of AAPS, Professor Iso, I hope I pronounced it correctly, from Moshi. He told us, if you want to move fast, go alone. If you want to move far, go together. That's I captured and I actually wrote that down. He indicated that the AAPS had managed to progressively bring together more than 20, remember right, about 23 countries in a period of about only 2 years. That was very impressive. We saw how the voice of African physiologists has grown steadily from 4 countries to about 23. And I know the number is going to continue growing. I know actually quite a number of staff from my university, the University, who were graduates from Moshi. We're very grateful that you can make it. Now, the current approach to designing programs is to ensure sustainability. And I'm glad that ASPS is focusing on capacity building. I think that we need to emulate even as EAPS and even as the different respective countries, organizations. The professor went ahead and shared a number of research priorities, and he called them the low-lying fruits. I know a number of young physiologists in Kenya and East Africa have been struggling to find topics, and I think those were very useful. He highlighted that NCDs, so non-communicable diseases, are a growing pandemic, yet they're not receiving the attention that they deserve. And that was highlighted over and over and over again, and encouraged that we strengthen the journal of ASPS. There's a number, you want to speak for Kenya actually, we produce quite a number of young physiologists from our ESC, our MSc, and our PhD programs. I'd like to encourage them, as well as the rest of the countries, to publish their work in the journal of ASPS. They don't just leave it to left us to library shelves, because it was a requirement for our graduation. The spotting shots were an African proverb that stated only a fool tests the depth of a river with both feet. Therefore, they encouraged us to start small and grow progressively. I wish to thank the professor for his efforts in SPS and this opportunity, without which EASPS would probably never be founded, and this historical conference would never come to be. But then let's follow up with the professor. That was exciting. Then we had a very powerful address from the president of EASPS, who was just walked out. So he highlighted the imperative need to strengthen physiology education in Africa. And he began by asking a question: is physiology globally relevant? And then he went ahead and said that the response to that question depends on your academic background. He said, him as a pure physiologist with a BSc, a master's, and a PhD in physiology, he strongly believes that it is very relevant. And I'd like to say that myself as a non-pure physiologist, and I'm probably a very corrupted one who has a BSc in physiology, a master's in physiology, a bachelor of medicine surgery, a master's of medicine surgery, and a fellowship training in spine surgery. So I'm the most unpure physiologist here. I strongly believe that it strongly is relevant to medicine, not only for the pure physiologists. Then he went ahead and resonated very passionately, recognizing the pivotal role that education plays in fostering the next generation of physiologists in healthcare across the continent. And he, as a Vice Chancellor, repeatedly highlighted that physiology is the backbone of medicine. Hence, if we are to train competent healthcare workers, regardless of what discipline, the training of the backbone needs to be strong. Because the backbone, again, remind me of spine surgery. I operate with the backbone, and without which there cannot be function anywhere else. So if we don't strengthen the backbone of medicine, then we cannot have strong, competent healthcare professionals. And for me, that is very passionate. So that's the reason I like to take attention. He strongly emphasized the need to strengthen the training, of course, as I mentioned, and he highlighted that the future of physiology in Africa is not bright due to the lack of physiology programs. I'd like to state that in Jomo Kenyatta University we have postgraduate masters in physiology as well as a PhD in physiology. Therefore, we invite anyone who would like to come and join us there. We'll be very happy to have you. He then identified the following weaknesses in physiology. One, lack of funding. And I remember I was complaining that he spent half of his salary doing his PhD. Unfortunately, that's common to all of us. I not only sponsored my master's in physiology, but even my master's in medicine. There's a big problem in Africa. That's true, and I hope that the solutions will be done. Then he mentioned that there is no regulatory body recognizing physiology. That again is very true. So once I requested the medical practitioners council in Kenya, I said, could you add to my credentials medical physiologist? What is that? So legally in Kenya, I'm not even a physiologist on the side, but I strongly identify as physiology. Even when the university attempted to transfer me to surgery, I said that I was first a physiologist, then a surgeon. Then he said that there's a lack of benchmarking, hence the curriculums are not similar when you compare Nigeria and Tanzania. I'd like to bring to his attention that even in the same country, maybe I should speak for mine, the curriculums are not similar within the same process. we have a problem there. Then I mentioned that there is a problem of training without specialization. Now we have a problem. The physiology itself is not recognized now, let alone the specialization itself. So indeed, we have a lot of work to do. He outlined that we have outskilled mentors. Again, I've seen our teachers using the same PowerPoints for the last 20 years. They only set the dates to automatically update themselves. So again, the mentors need to be mentored with due respect to my teacher. He also mentioned that there is a lack of industrial partnership. Now, every year in Kenya we have a meeting, a conference, every year, hosted by the Kenya Orthopedic Association. This year we had it in June. And it attracts about 300 to 400 delegates. It's actually the most dangerous time to come to Kenya, probably. Because all the orthopedic surgeons are in one place. So if you get into an accident somewhere, chances are you may not get treated. It also is dangerous for us as well. Now, during that conference, normally we have about 100 stalls by different companies exhibiting. Here we only have one. We're actually lucky to have one. I was quite impressed by the art. So it just shows you where the focus of industry is, and there is a need to direct that energy and attention to also the clinical sciences. He highlighted that there is also a lack of clear market for physiologists, which is again is quite true. In Kenya, most physiologists are not teaching physiologists, and most teachers of physiologists are not physiologists. In my department, out of 6, only 2 were physiologists. And even those of us who are 2 were hybrids. I'm a surgeon, the other is an anesthesiologist. So I think there is need for mentorship, and I think that's what is coming out very strongly and needs to be focused. There is lack of short courses. Again, I'm hoping since we have all the senior professors here, that can be addressed. Solutions offered, they brought to attention that there is need for physiology to become a profession rather than a module. And again, that is something that needs to be worked on. Of course, they also highlighted that there is a curriculum that is being worked on and is at its final stages before physiology training in African universities. His parting shots, promote physiology everywhere you go. I thought that was a very strong statement. I could feel the temperature rising when he was speaking. That we needed to lower the temperatures of cases. I think that was very good. Let's clap for Professor. Then came Professor Susan of Liverpool. Now she holds 2 presidential titles, if I'm not wrong. International and EASPS. And European Union. So she's President. You know, the president of this country is only president. Now she's president. She began to emphasize on the importance of publishing in reputable journals. And I think that was very important. In this part of the world, as I said, I speak for my country, most of the time we publish to fatten our CVs and meet the requirements for promotions as opposed to actually having impact. So I think that was a very interesting statement. That was a very important reminder. She went ahead to give an exciting description of myometrial research and how they dissect the myometrial during cesarean sections. I found that very intriguing at their hospital, which I found very captivating, quite impressive. I wondered whether they can harvest neurons during spine surgery. Each one of us is here thanks to our mother's uteruses. As I think uterine research is extremely important for our existence. And in our own words, we say, why don't we give the organ that gives us life the importance that it deserves? A lot to be researched on dysfunctional labor. I think labor and maternal mortalities are still a problem. And losing lots of people. And quite commonly because of so this is an extremely important area of discussion. If I may add, we know that the physiological changes that take place during pregnancy and in labor. So while she was talking, I kept wondering to myself, so how exactly does the uterus know that today is the day? Because there's a lot of physiological changes that happen. We've described them all. And then we normally jump to the physiology of labor. But what was the trigger? I said, now we have to get out, evacuate. Now, that I think is a very gray area, and I think that's stimulated a lot of thoughts, thinking, look around, because I was actually on my phone most of the time, not because I was not interested, I was taking notes, knowing that now I have to summarize all this. So So my apologies to the presenter. You may have noticed I was constantly on the phone. I was taking notes. I knew I'd have to come and summarize your thoughts. So that was quite interesting. And I wish to, at this opportunity, congratulate her for her latest publications. To the BMJ as recent as February. Let's clap for the professor. British Medical Journal. High impact. Excellent. Big achievement. Again, I want you to wish your granddaughter success as she embarks on her journey in obstetrics and gynecology. She ruptured those membranes like a Excellent. Then there was a presentation by Professor Pohl. And the professor actually struck me as the most humble professor I ever met. With due respect to all the other professors. I had the opportunity last night to share Caesar and Julius with him, and I looked at him like, wow, the humility is at its own level. He reminded us of the importance of membrane excitability and ion channels. And we always talk about these channels very theoretical. They keep dormant effect, sodium, potassium, etc. Even as we teach it. But the level of molecular beta that the description was given during that presentation is at its own level. That was quite impressive. He also reminded us of the actual mechanism of opening voltage-gated channels and not just voltage changes. And he also translated, and also brought to attention the selective permeation. Potassium and how it permeates 1,000 times more than sodium, and even the molecular structure and the hydrated and dehydrated state. That was quite amazing. And he showed us 3D structures of images that he took in his lab, which was cutting edge. Many of those structures, many of us just download from the internet. And he sees them live. So again, Professor. Then came Professor Mainen from Barman. I don't know if that's how it's pronounced. From France. And he shared with us a very interesting presentation on the exploration of taste buds and the taste of fats. The receptors for fat specifically, the sixth taste sensory modality. We've always talked of 5, so this is now the 6th one. And it served as a reminder on how intricate physiology and how fascinating physiology is. Now, it took 72 years to recognize umami, and he's now in the journey of getting fat recognized. I hope it will take less than 72 years. He demonstrated the role of gas leucine, STIM 1, and calcium in fat detection. And the professor from France was able to explain why French fries are loved all over the world. Probably fat addiction. Now, indeed, obesity is a growing epidemic, contributing to lots of non-communicable diseases, hypertension, diabetes, all over. And once the mechanism can be understood, a molecule that can bind to fat taste receptors without adding calories is actually going to be a breakthrough. I was quite impressed by that. Brought to our attention that he's working on a spray that you'll be able to spray the tongue and you feel satisfied. You don't need to. Now that won't go down very well with bariatric surgeons because that things that won't have much work to do. Oh, we don't go in there.
We were talking about it yesterday, that you were part of.
You don't know what is. Bariatric surgeons are affected by that, but that is going to be quite amazing. And just from the calories we are getting here, I think I must have gained a few kilos. Then, of course, we went to lunch, and the meals were extraordinary. In Kenya, we call it mapocho pocho. I want to, at this juncture, take this opportunity to thank the LOC. The meals are delicious. I'll have to go and weigh my weight and get back. I'm trying to maintain this figure, but it's proving a challenge. Then we came back and had a very interesting presentation by Professor Prof from Sudan. She gave a talk demonstrating the role of exercise, glucose control, irregardless of its. That was by irregardless of the concentration and was able to demonstrate molecularly how that happens. The role of glucostatin M in the process, among other molecules. She demonstrated also that an exercise bout in a person with type 2 diabetes results in a very different response than a bout of similar exercise in a non-diabetic. And apart from that, in 2 different diabetes and 2 different diabetes, again, also the response is completely different across populations other than just across different metabolic states. And that was, I think, a very fantastic presentation that all the patients around now will be involved in applause and appreciation. Finally, we had a talk that was very insightful by Professor Elias from Benin on 4 medicinal plants in diabetes that he has investigated again on molecular. And again, it is in fact a concern that diabetes and NCD is becoming a pandemic. So that's probably the reason why you notice lots of studies focusing around diabetes and NCDs. In fact, these days when the patient comes to me and tells me, I tell her that you require certain replacement or something, I tell them, oh, but I'm diabetic. I only tell them, but everyone these days is diabetic. Tell me something new. Of course, we try and make sure we control the sugars, but each one of us knows somebody, if not is related to something, or if not is diabetic themselves. So we conducted studies of 4 plants, on interleukin 2, interleukin 4, interleukin 10, amongst other various markers. And this reminded me of some studies which have been done in Kenya, and I'm glad that EASPS is bringing us together because this can then serve as a conduit for collaboration. The main studies being done in Kenya studies, it's time that people interacted, collaborated, and that will be more effective. We later had a very beautiful presentation on various topics, ranging from mentorship to COVID-19 era teaching, to many other cutting-edge research which reflected on the passion we all share in unraveling the mysteries of the human body. The poster presentations, which later turned into very brief oral showcases, a very oral presentation, they were showcasing a lot of innovative studies and projects undertaken by emerging scholars, reinforcing the vibrant network of collaborations that we found this conference. In the evening, we had a tour. We stopped at Pohl, Madafu, Libogo, and then later on the waterfront, which was quite enjoyable. And I think I found that to be very calm, if I were to compare it now with my life. Very calm and very orderly. So here I originally come from the coastal part of India, so I felt very much at home. That was really nice. So as we navigate the remaining of this conference, let these discussions fuel our passion and commitment to advancing physiology. Together we can break down barriers, enhance education, and promote the profession. Have it recognized and have our position rightfully served. Thank you all for your engagement. Eagerly anticipate the discoveries and discussions that await us in the coming days during this extraordinary fast of East African Society of Physiological Sciences. Basically, history has been made. This was the very first. So many days from now, group photos will be put up somewhere and we'll be like, oh, these are the guys who did the first. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Dr. Faraj, thank you so much for this wonderful and very well captured recap. And truly yesterday I was looking at you because I knew the task. And then you were all the time here saying, tomorrow we'll have something new. And let's overall clap for thank you so much, appreciate it. So, and thank you so much for keeping time because we are on track now, moving forward. And I would like to take this opportunity now to welcome our Master of Ceremony, who will take us through today. Welcome. And you will introduce yourself.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Dr. Marina. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
My name is Helen Ntui, and I am from the Communication Department of Biomedical University of Health and Life Science. It's my pleasure to be here today. Unfortunately, I was not able to come yesterday, but listening to Dr. Faraj, I think I was here. I heard everything that was here. That was a very good recap. Thank you so much. I know now everything that has taken place. So I think another round of applause for him. Especially for me, because now I know what you did yesterday. Now, without wasting much time, I'd like to we go straight to the second session of today. As Dr. Marina said, we are on track and we want to be on track. So the second session is going to be the launching of the IUPS, Africa Physiology Mentorship Program. This is an international union of physiological science. And the person that is going to launch is no other than Professor Susan, the first Vice President of IUPS. I would like to welcome her. She will say something about that program and officially launch it. Karibu sana.
Thank you very much. And so I'm happy to, we've heard a lot about people talk about mentoring and the need for mentoring, mentors and mentors as well. So I'm really excited to be able to introduce to you a new program that will be help them to be their selves, but I help them guide them to be what is the best self. And getting a mentor is a shortcut to success. That's very true. And years ago when I was doing a mentoring session for the American Physiological Society, I came across this quote from my own institution, and I love it. A mentor is like a tattoo. It stays with you forever. And so that's one of the things that I'm going to talk about here too, is the idea of this mentoring program that we're going to establish with early career physiology educators in Africa. The person, the mentee, hopefully will keep that mentor for the rest of their life to help them, guide them as their future adventures. And so a little bit of background of how this whole idea of developing this mentoring program came out. And it actually was part of the report from the Board of the General Assembly of the IUPS. So this is a group of people that included Simiat, myself at this time, and it still includes Simiat. She is currently a co-chair of the Board of the General Assembly. And at the time I was the vice chair of the Board of the General Assembly. When we got this report for the 2022 IUPS the conference, what do you call it?
Congress.
Congress, that was the word, I didn't think I was the C. The Congress for the IUPS Congress. And we had this report called the Board of the General Assembly Global Report on Physiology, Challenges and the Way Forward. And this is a report generated by contacting physiological societies across the globe to get input about what's impacting them, what do they want to do, and what's been happening. And one of the questions asked, what is the value to being a member of the IUPS? And quite a few of them said it's the opportunity for international research collaborations and improving physiology education and research across the globe. And another thing was a request of what can IUPS do to help you? And one of the requests that came through by quite a few of the organizations is that the IUPS can facilitate support of physiology in developing countries, provide expertise and coordinate the knowledge exchange, and offer enriched resources for physiological techniques and online advanced courses. And so this sort of was an underlying feature. And in that period of time when we were working on that report, what you do is come up with a variety of recommendations of moving forward. What can we do? And this particular mentoring program actually is a follow-through on the recommendations put forth in that report that include the interest in developing networks and working groups that would be both internationally and locally, but to facilitate exchange of knowledge and best practices in teaching and research across across the world of physiology. And also that IUPS should oversee a global mentorship building platform to focus on Africa. So for the initial mentoring program, we're going to focus on developing a mentoring program in Africa, and made the decision also to make it be physiology education. But the charge that Sue gave me was to set up a task force that would be co-chaired by a member of the executive committee, which would be me, and a member of the board of the General Assembly. And I kind of reached out to Simiat and said, hey, would you help me with this? And she didn't take much for her to say yes to doing this. She was also very interested in developing this program. And then the rest of the task force includes some members of some IUPS fellows, leaders of African physiological societies, and members of the IUPS Education Committee representing Africa. So here's a list of the members. Several of the people are here at this meeting. So this is a list of the people who were on this. Sue said, let's get a short-term task force. And, you know, it kind of worked. And it's amazing because, you know, you usually say, I became a physiologist not because I thought, oh, this is good. It was a physiology course, a physiology educator who just made me get excited about physiology. It was like the first course in the last year of my college degree. It was a physiology course that inspired me to become a physiologist. And so a good physiology educator can inspire that next generation. And also, one of the features that that this mentor program will hopefully do is to facilitate access to some online resources, stuff that is already available to help you with your education skills, but putting it in front of you and working on helping you develop and making use of some of these resources. So what's the long-term outcome would be a career advancement and increased scholarly confidence. So, you know, that's one thing I think a mentor can do. Oh, I don't know whether I can do this. Yes, you can. Yes, you can. And that's the kind of thing that I think a mentor can do. And it's a mentor that is not part of your research program is actually somebody more inclined to be that yes, you can kind of person. And so you're going to get exposed to some new fields and motivation for your career development. And, you know, another thing is, so this is somebody, it's not going to be your boss, it's not going to be your collaborator, it's going to be somebody independent of your current educational environment. It's going to give you the freedom to open up. Because you're not afraid, it's not going to depend upon whether or not you're going to keep your job or not kind of thing. In fact, it's going to help you because you're going to talk to that person, you're going to open up, and you're going to be challenged. And they're going to use them as a sounding board. And I think that's one of the best things that a mentor can do is be a sounding board, listen to you, see what you need, and help you develop that path. And so also, because you're going to be part of a program, you're going to have some goals set. You're going to have timelines. You're going to say, I need to get this done. It's going to be a motivation to get it done because you're working with somebody. You don't want to disappoint your mentor. And so what are some of the challenges in terms of developing this is we want to be able to secure access to some resources that are already available to train both the mentors and the mentees on effective mentorship and collaboration. Identify mentees from geographical regions with experienced educators as mentors. And obviously, as we're saying, we are going to focus on Africa for this initial step in the mentoring program, mentees and for early career physiology educators in Africa. And recruit great mentors willing to devote adequate time to match both the scientific and professional needs of the mentees. So what we did when we formed this task force was, the idea was to help, one of the functions of the task force would be to help identify appropriate mentors to pair with the mentees, and use leaders of the African physiological societies and other African physiologists to help them identify people to participate in the mentoring program. So hopefully they can help recruit early career physiologists who could benefit from this kind of a program. So the timeline was set out. Sue said, hey, let's launch this at that meeting in Africa, in Tanzania at the end of the year. And it's like, okay. And so it wasn't very much longer, but I thought, okay, I know we'll be able to make this. But we had several conference calls. We got together. We had great input from this task force. Great ideas, came together with a document that we sent them to the executive committee, the IUPS, and they gave us the go-ahead to do this. And here we are. We met the deadline to be able to initiate this program at this meeting here. And the hope then is that the idea, you want to judge the program to see whether or not we should then expand the program to other initiatives, to other countries, to research as well as to teaching. And so we're going to have a timeline. We figured, give it a couple years of this initial rendition of the program and have some guidelines that we want to, are you meeting this? Is it working? Is it worth continuing on? And so we're going to say, let's say starting out as a 2-year guideline of helping early career physiology educators here really advance their career skills. And so the format for this program, needless to say, a lot of it is going to be virtual. And COVID sort of turned the whole world into a virtual field, right? You can do things with Zoom and everything so easily. Much of these resources are actually open to the public. So they're freely available to anybody who gets access. Some of them are specific for a APS membership, sort of trying to twist the, sort of said yes to it that he would make all that material available for the mentors and mentees involved in this program. It includes actually, for example, I did a series of mini lectures on the autonomic nervous system. And they were designed to be teaching the teachers. And so it's to focus on my expertise in the autonomic nervous system, and there are ways of physiology educators can go and get a kind of a mini refresher course on a specific topic. And they're going to do several of these over the next several years, but that's just an example of the kinds of resources available. So what is the, this is where, are you going to come in on this one? Or? Is that what was this your, no, I'm sorry, I'm looking up. I knew you were already on there. This is where you're taking.
Thank you so much, Sue. So I'm going to take it from here and talk about the criteria for choosing the mentees for this program. On our part as a task force, we will strive so much for diversity and inclusivity in seeking the mentees that will participate in this first cohort of the program. We'll look at candidates from different socio-economic backgrounds, different cultural backgrounds across Africa. Of course, male and females will be included, and we'll also ensure that everyone from the different regions of Africa, north, south, east, or west, will be included. We're looking for early career educators in physiology who aspire to excel in what they do and are members of a local physiological society. So we're not taking individual working mentees, we're asking for you to come through your physiological society. So you must belong to EASPS or to Physiological Society of Nigeria or wherever it is you're located. So you must have clear goals and areas where you seek guidance and support, and of course we must see in your application that you display some professionalism in the interactions, that you'll be able to communicate very well with your mentor. You must be willing to dedicate time and effort to the mentorship program. Some of them would be mentors or we've communicated with. One of the things that they've told us is they do not want a mentor who is not willing to give time. So this is about you, the early career physiologist. So you must be ready to give time to be mentored, and you must take initiative in your own career development. For the mentors, these will be drawn from various sources, I've already mentioned by Sue. We're looking at fellows of IUPS, BGA members, IUPS Education Committee members, IUPS commissions, and everyone in this room. All right, we do have some who've already indicated interest, but we're still up for getting more so that we can have a more robust group of mentors. Of course, we're not only just looking at mentors from within Africa, we're also looking for mentors from across the globe so that we can have a good mix. All right. We want mentors who express genuine interest in mentoring the next generation of physiology educators and who are effective communicators themselves with excellent skills in teaching so that they can guide the young ones through complex concepts in physiology. We also want those who will be committed to fostering diversity and inclusivity in the mentorship program. So everyone is welcome as long as you are a physiology educator. And they must have a proven track record of successful mentorship in educational activities. You must have noticed I will keep stressing physiology education. This is not really about whether you call it vascular physiologist or anatomic physiologist. We are more interested at this stage in physiology education. All right, and these mentors will, of course, have to be ready to commit time and effort to the mentorship program. So, what are the benefits to the mentee? Why should I be interested in this program? We expect that you will be guided on a chosen career path. It will enhance your career. Like someone said yesterday, and I'm going to ask you later who did say that. If you want to go far, all right, go with somebody. Don't go alone. But if you want to go fast, you want to get there fast, well, if you think you can, then you go alone. So we want you to have an enhanced career growth so that you get to where you're going far enough. And that you will be able to do when you stand on the shoulders of the giants, because you will see further than you will be able to do on your own. So you also have improved or enhanced self-confidence in yourself and in your self-worth. You have somebody who's always saying, oh, well done, you've done well. Oh yes, I didn't believe you could have done that, but yeah, well done. What do you think that will do to you? I think that will boost your confidence. It will do my answer, it take my name. So, improve goal setting abilities. Alright, so the mentor will help you to improve in your goal setting abilities. It will also provide for you an opportunity to build a network of peers in a similar field of physiology. Alright, you will help with problem solving of your career path, and the mentees, as a mentee, you'll be exposed to new opportunities. Sometimes, like I said, if you stand on the shoulder of a giant, you will see further. Alright, you will see things that you would never have seen if you were trying to go it alone. So, you will also have enhanced diversity in perspectives and insights, which you would ordinarily not have by yourself. To the mentor, of course, they would also gain something from this program, okay? Yes, they're established physiology educators, but you always gain from every experience. So they would have fulfillment from giving back to the next generation. You can see Sudan, you can see Pohl, you can see Barman. They're not aiming to get something more, but they have the fulfillment in growing the next generation of physiology educators. There's also knowledge transfer, and when you transfer knowledge, of course, you also gain something in return. So the mentors will gain from also transferring some of the knowledge, some of the skills to the mentees. They would have career rejuvenation because they do now have the opportunity to also see new things, which they themselves may not be aware of, but when the young ones say, oh, I want to go along this path, and this is how to get there, they themselves learn. Okay, so, and it may also help them in rejuvenating their career. There's also the opportunity to adapt and identify the mentor's own approaches to different things. Okay, they learn new strategies to address challenges, so it's a give and take, it's a symbiotic kind of relationship. And the mentor also has renewed ideas and perspectives on his own leadership role. Okay, he may have had he may have had other ways of looking at themselves as leaders, but then when you have a new mentor, and then you begin to change and learn new things as well. So what we want to see in the next 2 years is the cohort of mentees who will be in this program to be able to innovate new ideas in medical physiology education from the exposure that we now have in the very fields with interacting with your mentors. Should have new skills and knowledge in the facilitation of learning of physiology. We expect that the mentees would have skills in areas of general academic writing, okay? Proposal, grant writing, scientific presentations, writing for publications. All these are things that we expect that you bring as a mentee from this program. Then you'll be able to set a goal and have an action plan much better than you would have had if you didn't participate in this program. You'd also gain independent decision making. Or if you think, yes, I'm good at my decision making, it will be enhanced. There is no way you go through this mentor program that you will not gain something. And of course, career advancement and increased scholarly confidence. So we have a few mentors who signed up across Africa and across the globe. You can see, we have somebody from Australia, from Birmingham, from all over. So I see people in this room from 22 countries. I think that I not see some names on this list. It would be nice to see some other people's names on this list who are not already there. I see the Museum of Physiology. I'm still at the Museum of Physiology in Kenya. Museum means the elder, the elder. So I don't see his name here. So I hope that other women mentors will sign up. Yes, we say, am I correct? Yes. So, and then of course we have some mentees who've already applied. So it's not something you just walk to me and say, Simiat, I'd like to be an editor or a mentee. We want you to go to the IUPS website. The form is there. You fill up the application, then we'll select you if we found that you're ready and you fulfill all the criteria that we mentioned. We have 2 already, so we're hoping that this list will grow to at least 20 for this first cohort. All right? Are we together? Yeah, good. So, yeah. So
just coming back to what we said before, that mentoring is not something that will come and go. Hopefully your mentor is going to be somebody that stays with you forever. And so a mentor is like a tattoo. It stays with you forever. And the idea is you're going to develop a relationship with somebody that's going to help you for the rest of your career. So this is Simiat actually referred to this. Here's another example of a quote from Isaac Newton made his most famous statement. If I have seen further, it is by standing on the shoulders of giants. And so you can look at your mentor as a giant. And that they're helping you by seeing more about the future, of your own future. And I mean, it's really, I think, going to be a great opportunity for you to strengthen your network of people that you know, and on both sides. So the mentor is also going to expand their networks as well. And so, go on, and I think that was it, right? And so, thank you very much.
Thank you, Professor Sue and Professor Simiat. I know this is supposed to be launching, and we have done it. They have spoken about it, and I think it's a very interesting thing. So I'd like us to do something like launching of somehow. Maybe we should stand, clap, or maybe somebody will come as a mentor and mentee, and then they will shake hands. We should have some kind of a symbol that shows that we have launches. So I would like to welcome, yes. And everybody should stand, please. Something for the mentorship. Maybe a mentee, we have a mentee. Okay. Yes, like shake hands. Somebody with everyone with their, yeah. All right.
Congratulations.
The professor, please. Yeah, to come like we have mentor and mentee, and then we can just hold hands and take a picture.
Take a picture.
something. The other time it was like a presentation of, now we have launched something. Now, before we go for tea time, which I'm really looking forward to from the Faraj, when he was describing about the Pocho Pocho. So I want to welcome one last person who before the tea time who is going to talk about the prospect of biomedical science in East African region integration. I know he's going to just stimulate discussion. It's going to be a discussion. So I'd like to welcome Professor Moshi, and who will come and speak and stimulate discussion on the prospect of biomedical service in the East African region integration. Karibu, Professor Moshi. I know it's one of the pioneers in this field, especially in my university, I know. So he knows much about it. Karibu, sir.
Yeah, distinguished international guests, professors, and all our delegates, good morning. Yeah, I'm actually sitting in or standing in for Professor Mashala, the Vice Chancellor for Herbert Kairuki Memorial University, who was supposed to actually talk. In most cases, you also have, so not in most cases, I don't know, not generalize it, but you have people who do not belong to the core professions in medicine, in dentistry. And this has been a challenge. It has been a challenge because if you are just a scientist doing physiology, for example, and you graduate and your GPA is not good, you do not qualify to be an academic staff. And you are in Africa where there is no industry. Where are we going to take it? That becomes a big challenge. That becomes a disincentive because you don't have a career path. That is a big challenge. But again, also, sir, even if you were a clinician, what about remuneration? With remuneration, in the basic sciences, you just go away with your salary, especially in this place, if you don't have a research grant. If you don't have research grant, it means you only have your salary, and that is quite a disincentive. And I know so because I have been in this. I did my PhD, came back home, and for a while, you don't have a research grant. So you struggle a lot. And especially when you have senior people in the department who have also been in the same trend and have not created grants. And so, how are you going to pick up as a fresh graduate so that you can get into the track of generating research grants, generating funds, so that it becomes exciting, right, to be building career in that area. So consequently, this has created a problem of inadequate human resource in this region. The biomedical departments are not that much staffed, and has been, and I know there have been improvements recently as opportunities for international collaboration have been coming in, people getting training grants, people getting collaborative projects. This has helped a lot. The other area that has been suffering a lot historically is the area of equipment, even teaching equipment, right? I did pharmacology when we had the MD transducers for pharmacology, but when we again use small drums to to do tracing for contraction of the ilium, the rabbit ilium, to do all these traces for the experiments in pharmacology. Remember the problem of smoking with benzene and the potential problem of contracting cancers. And indeed, this, unfortunately, our Department of Clinical Pharmacology still has these broken, now they're broken MD recorders with those spaces, they don't work anymore. We try to use smoking drugs with them. Once I tried some of these experiments and then go back to the rubber tubings, go back to the chemicals which were bought in the 80s, early 90s. Imagine they're all expired. You try something, and they don't work. They no longer have activity. So these are the kind of problems, but again also lack of guidance on resources, human resources in particular. What kind of guidelines in terms of human resource development in this area do we have? Not really much, but also lack of centers of excellence in this area of biomedical sciences, different areas. The areas of microbiology and immunology benefited a lot from HIV/AIDS. A lot of research from mid-1980s all along to this time, a lot of research money has poured in, a lot of capacity building has taken place in HIV research, microbiology and immunology, virology. Great capacity has developed in that area. But not every area. If you are doing drug discovery, I happen to my area is drug discovery, mainly dealing in chemotherapeutic agents, cancer, HIV, antimicrobial, antimicrobacterial substances. Yes, this area, it's not that easy, has been difficult. You really need to persevere a lot to be able to grow a strong person. You can't be a professor, yes, how strong are you? Starting from one area of publication to another, that doesn't make you a strong person in any specific area. So, how do we move with biomedical sciences in the East African region in terms of integration? The Inter-University Council of East Africa has done a lot of good work in terms of harmonizing curricula. They have been harmonizing curricula, developing different guidelines in medicine, in fact, guidelines for all universities in different aspects. I see this as an opportunity. I see this as an opportunity to develop harmonization programs for the biomedical sciences subjects, develop harmonized curricula in this area, right? And with harmonized curricula, what opportunities does that provide? One, we are able to exchange faculty across institutions. We are able to share teaching staff, but again also that is a very good background for collaborative activities. Right. If we could build collaborative teams, And again, these professional societies, I'm impressed by the IUPS, which is a great opportunity for linkage of people in physiology specifically to international colleagues for collaboration. But in terms of grants, because you don't just get money to buy equipment if you don't have a grant. What is the delivery at the end of the day? Right, so that is an opportunity which I see will develop into research grants, and I will advocate that a lot. If IUPS is going to support this region and support integration of biomedical sciences in the East African region, we need grants, we need collaborative projects so that we can build capacity, one for teaching, because if you don't have equipment, how do you teach skills in the biomedical sciences? Because you don't just move on to clinical practice. You need to develop skills in the laboratory. In the past, we would have, for example, pharmacokinetics, where we had an experiment, a pump where we would pump a dye and we would be measuring what is trickling out from the reservoir, we will be measuring concentrations. Simple guidance, they are not there. The histamine experiment for inflammation, right? Heel flare and edema. Histamine, do you buy it from the shop? How is it not standardized? That's not the way to teach medical students. So you can see the kind of challenges that we have, but they are not insurmountable. Initiatives like having these conferences bring people together, but also mentorship programs. We need to develop strong mentorship programs that support graduates, make sure that those who graduate with the PhD, they have linkages for postdoc training. That is a major weakness that we have in this region. You graduate with your PhD, that is not enough to propel you into a powerful research. So it's a miracle for people to become full professors without postdoc training. How do you grow? So these international collaborations provide great opportunities for postdoc training, but mentorship also starts lower. We can start sending students, even at undergraduate level, to other institutions within the East African region and outside the East African region to start making linkages, particularly those we identify to be good material that may be eventually recruited as academic staff. Staff exchange programs, I think I've talked about that, and I think having said that, and because unfortunately I didn't really prepare for a presentation, but from my experience, that's the little that I could present. But for the benefit of this topic, and for the benefit of the East African region, I would like us now to share discussions, contribute to the full ideas that I have presented, so that eventually the rapporteurs can be for the input into this area. And when people go into working groups in the East African region, then they have something that is well cooked, that can be used to create support for building integration. Thank you very much. I don't know how much, well, we don't have a lot of time remaining today. Yeah, so let me welcome a few people, become an MC myself, and then welcome colleagues to contribute to my small presentation and see what more ideas we can bring out for the rapporteurs to bring down any benefit to this important topic for the region. But let me also say something, that one small point that I would like to add. The separation between clinical practice and biomedical sciences, and then we claim that we are doing evidence-based medicine is a fallacy. I think we also need to create basic sciences units in every clinical department, right? And these, basic science units in the clinical departments to also become part of teaching of basic sciences. And in this way, we are going to be able to rapidly build a platform for integration of basic sciences into clinical practice. Because some people will practice for years and you don't have new knowledge. How do you advance? So thank you very much. I think let me invite one of, any person would like to contribute, please, and support my, yes, please, thank you.
Allow me to walk here. I don't know where Professor. Oh, there is a Professor Susan. So I start with Professor Susan. Allow me to start with congratulating all of you, Professor Moshi, Professor Susan, and Professor Samiat. Samiat, yeah. I think they were the presenters in the morning that are really entertainers, and Professor Moshi, you have summarized it very well. Okay, thank you. Now, I was given a qualification here by the presenters in the morning, the professor from AlNeelain University, and she gave me a title and she said, I am Museum of Physiology. So I'll shake her hand and tell her how I'll be describing myself in my business card as MOP, Museum of Physiology. So I also request we take a picture with you, specifically Professor Moshi. And the reason why I will do that, I'm from Kenya, and I went to school with Professor Isaac Beche. And he looks exactly so I'll take a picture with you. If you are not aware, you have a brother, you have a perfect identical brother. Let me tell you, physiology is amazing. I know you are doing biological sciences, but there's no contradiction. There's no contradiction. I simply say physiology is about life. And everything falls in there. So that's why we talk about insect physiology, plant physiology, everything is physiology. So physiology is life. So there's no contradiction because those are core medical courses that we respect each and every one. You know, so there is no contradiction whatsoever. Okay? You take that picture and I'm going to invite you, if you are free, if you have no what, I understand you are retired like myself, so you can go and holiday to Nairobi, yes? And I take you to KC, Now, I will not take much time. A summary here. Even and the Kenyans that we are here, you are the witnesses. In our country, we had an education system that was called 7423 in 1963. Okay. Then in 1985, we went through a transition after making a lot of noise. You know, Kenyans, we make a lot of noise. So, and then we changed. We changed from 7423 to 844. We never stopped making noise. We now went through it and we started making a lot of noise. When we make noise, our politicians, they understand some physiology because they listen to Kenyans. So, and what they did is, this debate has been going on, but we started getting it to be implemented. And now, here is a summary, my friends, because in my country, Kenya, we are now implementing competence-based curricula. It is already, it's not being debated, it is being implemented by the Kenya Institute of Curriculum Development. I went there to meet them because I said, I'm so happy that God has kept me alive to actually see the transition taking place in my country. So now, what am I going to do? All what has been presented here is a contradiction, Professor Susan and Professor Super. There is a contradiction. Why? You said that a mentor is like a tattoo, finish the rest, that stays with you for? Are they contradicting themselves because they are talking of IUPS being involved in Africa, and after 2 years, they don't quite believe, they want to see what will be happening after 2 years, and then after that they keep on monitoring and evaluating it. What we are telling you from Africa. When you start this, we want to stay with this mentorship forever.
Yes, absolutely.
Absolutely, forever. And when I read you this, these Kenyans that have actually put these points here, they have done, our government funded them, and they have actually they engaged in global benchmarking. They went to the Americas of this world, to Europe, New Zealand, they did not spare any capital. So therefore, we are very excited, Kenyans. We are very excited because of what is coming. A child that is aiming to become a doctor, a pharmacist, a dentist, an architect, a lawyer, will be identified very early by the competence-based curriculum. And that is so exciting, and that is why in Africa, or starting with Kenya, we shall start producing these children that will be second to none in the world. Believe it or not, listen now. I want you to listen to this Museum of Physiology. Now, the previous systems, I'm just reading what is here. The previous systems, the previous education systems, they became too academic and examination oriented, leading to 3 key problems. If you are from my beautiful country, Kenya, you have a cancer. The cancer is called the cancer of cheating in examinations. It is real. And I have spent my 40 years in Nairobi University fighting that disease. Now, very contagious. Now, here we go. Disconnect. There are 3 disconnects with these previous 2 systems of education. Which are these disconnect? I will take you through disconnect number 1. Listen very carefully. Between curriculum content, there's a disconnect between curriculum content and the world of work. Youth unemployment is on the increase. Many learners exit school without skills for work and skills for life. Let's stop at that point and tell. In my home country, it pains me greatly because there are more than 5,000 doctors that cannot be employed, qualified after spending 6 years in the university. Is that true, dear Kenyans? I'm not hearing you. Am I telling a lie? I am telling you a physiological truth. A pathophysiological truth. Now, then let's go to disconnect number 2. Disconnect number 2. In realizing the national goals of education, which emphasizes core values and the principles like nationalism, social equality, and responsibility. That is disconnect number 2. We go to disconnect number 3. Disconnect number 3. With the need of the 21st century, which is a knowledge and skill age, that demands new way of thinking, new way of being imaginative, innovative, and saying we can do it all, and we are going to be second to none. Now here we come. Paying attention to disconnect 1, disconnect 2, and disconnect 3, listen now to the new curriculum that we are implementing with our children starting in the kindergarten. Here we go. Now, competence-based curriculum, competence approach. Here we go. In response to the Constitution of Kenya 2010 and to achieve Vision 2030, the SDG and implement the East African Community Protocols, we need to transform our education system in 3 ways. 3 ways, here they are. Competencies, and therefore, Professor Susan, with IUPS, AAPS, and now with the East African Society of Physiological Sciences, we need centers of excellence. And I can tell you, in my country, Kenya, there are hospitals that are so well equipped, including Aga Khan, where Professor Simiat is, and they are very well equipped. And therefore, we need to make sure that as we are actually emphasizing on physiology as education, it's a hands-on science, and it needs to actually be well grounded. And that's what can happen in every country in Africa. So here we go. So I've told you about now the need for competence. Now the next thing is, and I want to read this once again, competencies. Kenya's economy is changing very fast. We need to prepare learners for new possibilities. The 2nd century demands transferable skills and soft skills, and the competence-based curriculum approach seeks to produce a learner with the competencies to thrive now and in an increasingly changing world. You don't want to produce a learner that will be seeking employment. You want to produce a learner that the market there will be hunting and looking for that child, for that young, beneficiary. Now, character. The new CBC curriculum, competence-based curriculum, is addressing the character. Here we go. Education needs to mold all learners with the values to uphold the peace and national unity across the country. Value-based education and parental empowerment and engagement are core pillars in the new curriculum. The competency approach seeks to produce a learner who has character, a global character. You are producing professionals, not for Africa, but for the world. Okay, now, the 3rd point is creativity. Listen to this. Our competence-based curriculum in Kenya, which is being implemented, it is addressing the issue of creativity. That's the work of our nervous system. Creativity. So, and therefore, the 21st century is a society in which knowledge and ideas are a key source of economic growth. Education needs to produce citizens who are willing to think differently, be creative, and try out new ideas to solve challenges. Innovativeness, imaginations. You cannot set a limit for that. The sky is not even the limit for what we are talking about. And what we are saying is this, as I conclude, we have facilities, and all they need is they become centers of the mentorship program that we're actually talking about. And as I conclude, let me share this, and what I'm going to share with you, it is real. And with the Professor Simiat, I'm going to work with her, we actually find out the truth. I was blessed with one daughter, and I'm saying I was blessed with one daughter, 1 minute is enough, with one daughter because my wife passed on, and now that daughter discovered a man. She took her time, and they found a man. The man is a civil engineer. And when he got married, I got a brother-in-law, okay? So then, in African context, isn't it?
Yeah.
Now, this brother-in-law, he has had minor stroke in his right, and he eventually got a major one and went down. He went to ICU in Aga Khan University. When he went there, the neurologists surrounding him, they were monitoring electrical activity in the brain because he was on a cocktail of anti-epileptics, and they wanted to monitor the electrical activity throughout the night. There is only one Kenyan that we are going to look for because we spent time in ICU because that Kenyan was not available. He is the only one who could actually use the equipment to monitor electrical activity 24 hours. One Kenyan. And you know our population, we are approaching 60 million. And there is only one physiologist in a population of 60 million that can actually take your patients in ICU where you need to monitor the electrical activity. What does that mean? What I have told you, we are now celebrating because he has just received a video because he is now at home and he is receiving nursing and physiotherapy in his home. So, therefore, there are many gaps, and therefore, in this case, there is a lot that we can do with the facilities that are available, and therefore, let's make sure that the mentorship program does remain with us in Africa forever.
Thank you so much. We have somebody online who wants to contribute. Frank is online. Please, can you put it so that we can hear his contribution?
Good morning, everybody. I'm showing my face for you to see me and know who is talking. My name is Faraj, and I'm at the University of Namibia. So I will put off the video and then I'll continue. I want to thank you all for giving me this opportunity to speak. I also want to thank the EASPS organizers for this forum, this mentoring forum, which I think is really needful, and I think it will also go to address a problem, that is persistent across Africa. So thank you so much for this great idea. I just want to quickly say that there is a big gap for physiology training across the world, but particularly in Africa. Most of the people that are in physiology in Africa come from medical backgrounds. That is, they did physiology in medical school, graduated as medical doctors, and then went on to continue their career in physiology because of the passion or love for physiology that they got during their training as undergraduate medical students, which I think is excellent. And then also, we have people too from other backgrounds, perhaps people that are direct pharmacy or medical laboratory sciences, that went on to continue their career in physiology. And I think the reason is probably because they fell in love with physiology, which was part of their undergraduate training program, which is great. But the big gap is that for many African countries, there is no BSc physiology program. There is no undergraduate program, that is there to produce BSc physiologists. And I think this is a big gap that needs to be addressed. Of course, the question that most people quickly ask, which I think is consistent, is, after producing them, where do they work? Well, I think several years ago in the 70s, I think, in the 60s, when the then provost of the College of Medicine, University of Lagos, decided to start a BSc program in physiology. No, not the provost, the head of the department of physiology, when he decided to start a BSc program in physiology. This was the same question that he was asked, that where are they going to work? And the answer he gave them was, I am going to train them in such a way that wherever they ultimately do work, wherever they work, ultimately, they will be the best people in whatever they did or they do. So, and that was how the BSc program in physiology started at the University of Lagos. Of course, the BSc program in physiology was predated by the BSc program in physiology at the Premier University in Nigeria, which is the University of Ibadan. As we speak, people from these programs are maybe all over the world now helping to train other physiologists. So I'd like to really emphasize the need to address this gap across Africa. And please, I'd like to also quickly state that I am not in any way saying that medical doctors, pharmacists, medical laboratory scientists, dentists, and others who have a passion for physiology and who are teaching physiology and who are physiologists, by training, I'm not saying that they should not be there. No, the place is big for everybody. But I'm only emphasizing that there is a gap, across Africa that needs to be addressed. And that gap is that we have very, very few schools that are offering a BSc program in physiology. And I think we need to begin to address that. Then, secondly, too, I want to thank Prof. Alkizim for his proactive attitude in coming up, of course, with his team. He didn't do it alone. Coming up with the Physiocafon program, that is the curriculum for physiology for schools across Africa. I think this is very, very commendable. And
attachment, which in this case, could be hospital attachment or research lab attachment along the way as part of their curriculum before they graduate. So I think those are some of the basic things that I've noticed in East Africa in the short time I've been here. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor. I think we will be the one winding up this session so that we can go for tea now. I would like to request you that we take at least just 20 minutes for tea. So we come back here around 10:20. But before tea, there's someone who has just one short announcement. 1 minute, Professor Esot. Please, just 1 minute announcement, and then we go for tea. Just try to make it 20 minutes and come back here, please.
Good morning, everybody. I won't take up a lot of time. I just wanted to, I've got 2 lists outside for people interested. I'm looking at faculty members on the African continent based on my talk I gave yesterday. So, sort of an expression of interest. One is the assessment of physiology, teaching and learning practices on the African continent. I'm keen to launch a study like that, but I need partners across the continent. So if you're interested, there is a sheet outside that you can just put your name, country, and email. And number two, I've also thinking of a research project across the African continent to tackle, we said low-hanging fruit yesterday. I don't know what it will be. It could be something like BMI or whatever we decide. But again, if you're interested, and a faculty member, there is also a sheet outside. So there's two sheets that I would appreciate if you could fill that in and we can see what comes from that. Thanks.
Oh, thank you. Please, can we put our hands together for our presenter for the discussion? Thank you so much. That was very interesting, and thank you so much for that. And we can take now our tea break. 20 minutes, and we are back here. Asanteni sana.
The wars and this issue have some visa issues. She just asked me, Miss, why you not go with me to Bahrain to attend the workshop at Physiology education? And this morning, and when I fall in love with the physiology community, and you can see how the physiologists are just the family together. Professor Sudan, Professor Faraj, we the Professor Pohl, you just let and meet every now and then. You call me or attend physiology competition conference. It's like a family gathering. I never feel. So this is the true love of whenever I come, I always have new friends, either junior or senior. So please have an effort in this mentoring program, and we have to thank Professor Susan, Professor Smith for their this work. Okay, so today we're going to speak about the gut marrow axis, our new friends. I think as physiologists, we underestimate them, or maybe we think they are not belong to us. I have to start with Professor Sonny McNally, God bless his soul. The first time I met him in Bahrain, 2012, then again Ismailia, 2012, and every AAPS meeting we met, he dedicated too much for physiology education, and I know most of you working through using lab tutor. I love research. I truly miss him. May Allah bless him. He was always helpful, give huge support to the AAPS personally and financially. I really missed him today. So what we're going to speak about, microbiota, microbiosis, interaction between gut and bone marrow. What is the role of dysbiosis in hematological disease and inflammatory disorders, and what can go through research? So what is an axis? When they say this is an axis, it is a pie or multi-directional pathway through which part of the body biochemically communicate with another part of the body. And this is why I think we should have gut bone marrow axis should be established. This is for American Society of Microbiology. So, microbiota, which involves bacteria, archaea, viruses, they are 10 times more than us. So, we shouldn't fight them. We should be their friends. They are more than us, more way than us. And even genomically, they are much diverse and much older than us. People say that bacteria have been 200 million to us. The microbiota in general is different based on the where stage on the body. So we have lung, we have in the oral, in the blood, in the skin, and it differs. Depends on the adult human microbe is different in constitution based on the size of the body, and we see why this is important for us. So we come to our holy book, Guide to What to Say about microbiota. Actually, it says nothing. It said nothing. 2013, we was 16, and also say nothing. But finally, he said just a very nice paragraph in the page number 3. That microbiota is interacting with us and affect human physiology and should be an area of
microbiota in the body. So it colonizes organisms from Firmicutes, bacteroids, antibacteria, and bacteria. And they are the major players actually. They're the most affecting us is the gut microbiota. I call this the state of health or disease and the expression of the success or failure experienced by the organism in its effort to respond adaptively to environmental challenges. It's run by Rainbows, he's a microbiologist. Still, we as physiology think microbiota is related to microbes, not related to us. But I think this code is truly applied to the relation between us and microbiota. We have to make use of it. We don't have to fight it. But because it comes, there are more ways than us. So, Servus, Michael, when finally mentioned there, it says that it can cause disease, but most of the time they live in harmony and provide us with essential for survival. Why we need them? We need them for maintenance of homeostasis and what physiology? Physiology is how to keep homeostasis. Post-nutrition and colonization resistance. Because if we get rid of the dead bacteria, we cannot have sterile. So we're going to be occupied by the pathogenic bacteria. And regulation and development of immunity, which will be the major part of this. We have symbiotic interactions. We have the microbiota interacting with host immunity, interacting with environmental factors. What do I mean by environmental factors? The mode of delivery, I will speak why it is so important, so we have to thank Professor Ray for her dedicated work to ensure women have safe, normal vaginal delivery. Hygiene status, and this will explain why Swedish children have 10 times higher chance to have food allergy or autoimmune disease compared to Pakistani people. And breastfeeding because it contains oligosaccharides which are essential for microbacteria. The mode of delivery is essential because we got our microbacteria from mom. One of the things we got. So if we have a vaginal delivery, the infant will get vaginal microbiota. I already spoke that it's different between the size of the body. So, but if the mother got through cesarean section, the infant will be colonized by skin microbiota. So, and this will be different in the future. It will affect him somehow. What I mean by microbiota dysbiosis? We have beneficial microbiota, we have commensals, they are just there, and we have the determinant of pathogen. So when we this, we are in homeostasis, the what we love most. And here we have what we have dysbiosis and subsequently inflammations. Inflammations, which we already knew that whatsoever disease comes up will end up with some sort of inflammation. The microenvironment with mesenchymal cells and endothelial cells. And we found that microbiota action work in parallel on what euphotic stem cells are on the stromal and mesenchymal cells. I'm inspired by Professor Pohl. Yesterday we speak about his hobby. Actually, this is my new hobby. I do hand in peritology. I just, like an old woman sitting in the chair and just drink with soup. So this is my work actually. So from what we get, there are a lot of microbiota. The most of animal researches go through what we call germ-free model. And to get the germ-free mice, we give them antibiotics. So think twice, or maybe think 3 times about antibiotics. By giving antibiotics, we are able to establish germ-free mice when they are used in the studies of microbiota. So, here by the same microbiota cells can directly or indirectly sense microbiota signals, which will be the rest of the lecture about it, and which give to the myeloid cell lineage differentiations and training of the immune system. Speed have been disproved how that germ-free mice and with antibiotic treatment have altered severity in bone. And even there accumulated evidence that most of hematological diseases are associated with some sort of gut microbial dysfunctions. I will see you some pictures. Iron deficiency anemia related with gut microbiota in children is being duplicated in gestational anemia. Gut microbiota. The wash microbiota, they found that are capable to treat management of increase the level of RBCs, hemoglobin in chronic disease. And actually there is other accumulated evidence why chronic disease usually is associated with anemia, regardless of the cause. So people think about scientists to the role of microbiome, as he existed at the paper. And even running the platelets, intestinal microbiota dysbiosis play a role in pathogenesis of primary immune lymphocytopenia. How they work, they are work. So the light receptors, we have LOD ligands. What we speak about derivatives, interferons, interleukin 17, and propionators are short-chain fatty acids. All of these are suggestive mechanism how the interaction between the bone marrow and the microbiome. Professor Charlotte speak about that the genomic metabolomics and the effects. Actually, this one, why is being delayed the studies of the gut microbiota, because it's really expensive. But now with the new technology and use of it's now become much more easier and less expensive to see the effect of different diseases and interventions on the microbiota composition. When we come to one, we love more the short-chain fatty acids, and Professor Naim, not all fat is bad. Short fatty acids, it's known that it have a very positive effect on the body. So the intestinal microbiota produce short fatty acids, acetate, butyrate, propionate, and lactate. And for this, when we say I'm taking probiotics, what I mean by probiotics, that we have ready-made bacteria that producing short-chain fatty acids. We already knew that the short-chain fatty acid been studied a long time. For example, like butyrate, they have a histone deacetylation activity, and they found that they are reacting with what we call metabolite sensing G protein coupled receptors, GRP3. And you can see here the impact of them on lactate, and that we found here biotic cells should have receptor solvents. Any other differences? And they said that lactate, this may have a potential therapeutic sterility or lesion with chronic anemia who want to respond to either iron, neither biotin. Another action how butyrate is working. I mentioned earlier on that we have bidirectional. When we have inflammation, then we have a leaky gut. This will affect the microbiome. The leaky gut will cause inflammation. Inflammation will affect the bone marrow. This will increase the inflammatory factors. Inflammatory factors will disturb. This one will get this vicious cycle. So we have normal symptobiosis, we have intact intestinal barrier, but we have the signal interacting. When we have this biosis, we lost this integrity. Okay, so then when microbiota will get out, it start to feed anti-inflammatory, now he will become pro-inflammatory. So why short-chain fatty acid have a well-characterized anti-inflammatory effect on both colonic epithelium and immune cells, and we already see why the interaction between two these cells is essential to keep homeostasis. We have to have normal colonic epithelium to make sure that the gut microbiota are staying in one place. They are not moving around. You can see here. So we have a normal, this we get the cytokines. Another mechanism of action supports how is the role of regulation of hematopoiesis and erythropoiesis also. For example, proposed actions are lipopolysaccharides, which are coming from gram-negative bacteria. They are recognized by toll-like receptor force with the recognition receptor family will result of central use the innate immune response. And again, these have been proved that free mice that normal and the commensal mice. And this long-lasting adaptive immune response, and you can almost unlimited papers connect between dysfunction of the microbiota and autoimmune disease, food allergies, and so on. So this is how things respond to innate immunity, and then responsible for adaptive immunity. Our ability of our immune cells to recognize our own cells as friends rather than attack them. In fact, they found that microbiota does not only affect the bone marrow, it even affects the bone cells itself. It has a role in hematopoiesis, but it's not a control of it. But it's really interesting. So here where we get the interaction between the microbiota and the products and the recognizing receptors. Another factors we spoke about, hematopoiesis and bacteria microbes, a paper we published without the LBT. We speak about the role of interferon receptors, our stats, and how they work, and how can get pro-inflamed, and they both work on stromal cells and hematopoietic stem cells. It does not only work in hematopoietic stem cells. And this, I guess, will make them a very strong regulator of hematopoiesis. So we can see here the LBS working also through the binding receptors, and the binding ligand is working through NOD. But actually, they found that NOD ligands is being given to three mice models with autoimmunity per se, giving not ligands will help to increase the bone marrow cellularity and number of immune cells. So what we said in summary, the effect of microbiota hematopoiesis results from either the hematopoietic stem cells or the stromal cells. We talk about the action of short-chain fatty acids, interaction with the GRB, non-lipase can induce cytokines, and we know already that hematopoiesis is wholly regulated by cytokines. So if you are able to determine the better cytokines, will have better stimulant. The liposomal receptors induce hematopoietic stem cells. We have that to speak about PSA, we will speak about next with regulatory cells, and this is the main what Professor Akil speak about when we want T helper 2 to be more than T helper 1. Am I right? So the PSA, which is coming, bacterial bacilli is coming from B fragile polarizations, is where to get the balance of T1, T helper 1, and T helper 2. Example, even in recurrent abortion, they found that usually women with recurrent abortion have this balance, lack of balance. Usually in pregnancy, T helper 2 is more than T helper 1. But during recurrent abortion, they have T helper 1 more than T helper 2. So PSA presented by intestinal dendritic cells, which activate CD diffusers and elicit appropriate cytokine production. So we have this happy picture all of us want to see. So I'm coming to the end. I have a lot using more time. What can we use? So we know this. What the benefit? What can make it? And I paper being published recently that found that aging with hematopoiesis, you know that we have one of the GTF. Now people much out there, they are living long. So GTF is now a true medicine. So with that associated with age is that anemia. They think that age mice, this can be, but with aging we have low microbial complication. And whenever we have lack of diversity, lack of numbers, we got to have dysfunctional microbiota. This may interrupt with hematopoiesis, about which we publish in the blood. So we can think of how can we keep a functional microbiota, regulated microbiota within aging. This can help. Most allergies, autoimmune disease, multiple sclerosis, Crohn's disease, celiac disease, type 1 diabetes, let's speak about. All of these are autoimmune disease, dysfunctional immunity. So we are able to make use of our friends, our microbiota, to treat this with less side effects. We're going to see. Actually, manipulation of the microbiota would be a powerful tool to regulate inflammation and oxidative stress. This is part of my work early on when we work on gum arabic. Gum arabic is actually polysaccharides and been by, in Netherlands, it approved that it have a prebiotic after. When I mean a prebiotic means it's able to selectively lactobacillus bacteria and increase the number of charged lactic acid in the serum. So we found that it decreases C-reactive proteins, it have decreased the CRP and increase the total antioxidant ability and increase the malondihyde and hydrogen peroxide. In a study done later on among chronic renal failure, we found that gum arabic also was able to increase the hemoglobin and MCV levels. We did a study, but it was phase 2 trials. We are able, by the way, to have many clinical trials because already gum arabic is approved by FDA as food additive. So this is why we don't go through phase 1, phase 2, 3, phase 2, because it's already approved as a food. We found that it have increased the ASR, increased the TNF, and it have actually increased the disease severity score. I start my love to microbiota since my PhD. When I worked on gum arabic, I found it as a fetal hemoglobin inducing agents, and actually at that time we know that because of pitrate, it's already known as fetal hemoglobin inducing agents. But because they are short chain fatty acid, it's very difficult to give it in short of pills, or it have to be IV infusions and all. So you see, can we give gum arabic as a beacon to produce pitrate in people? And it really works. And continue my love till my last publications here when we work on Alnaria aromatica. It's also prebiotic. It's a seaweed. We work on multiple sclerosis and we really get a very nice results. Thank you. شكرا جزيلا Professor Pohl is in Japanese but I have one picture. And actually I was managed to do more because I don't spend any time in combing hair or matching dresses. I have only, these are my kids, this is the eldest and this is the youngest. Thank you so much for the space. I hope you like my presentation through that. Thank you. Thank you.
Professor Kaddam, thank you for really taking the time, trying to use the time wisely. Now I'd like to welcome the second presenter, who is Emeritus Professor Ulrich Pohl. He's an Emeritus Professor in Cardiovascular Physiology from Ludwig Maximilian University of Munich, Germany. Also a General Secretary of International Union of Physiological Science, IUPS. He's going to talk about regulation of blood flow in the microcirculation. Welcome, Professor.
So, first of all, it will be difficult to cope with such a vibrant presentation. Congratulations. And I also would like to thank the organizers for the invitation, which gives me a chance to my favorite subject in all my scientific life, the microcirculation. And since I got the invitation, I thought I'd start with an invitation to you. And please forgive me if it sounds very strange, but I want to say, Tafasari, Nifurate, Katika, Majabu, Yamaisha. The translation is, please follow me on my way to the miracles of life. Wow. So I better go there, and nobody can put a note here that I'm over time. And I will start the smallest arteries, and they are divided in capillaries, and they come then to the venules, And all these three parts we call the microcirculation. But today we will focus mainly on the arterioles. You see here from our intravital microscope studies an arteriole that goes into smaller arterioles here. And this is a normal situation. And here you see the situation of an application of an endothelial vasodilator. And you can visually imagine that this is a higher blood flow, better oxygen support, and but this is the exception. This is the exception during heavy exercise. What you normally have is a partly constricted vessel. So we call this the basal tone, and one of the main. And when you electrically stimulate this muscle, then this perfusion unit will react. You will get a higher blood flow due to vasodilation. But this is an isolated effect. Another muscle area will not respond unless you have also activity there. So the whole microcirculation consists of vascular perfusion units. And now, we have seen already that with higher workload, we get much higher blood flow. And this is shown here as forearm blood flow, again in humans. And now you wonder, what is the main reason for increasing the blood flow? And you may think that it is simply inactivation of sympathetic nervous system. But when you block the sympathetic nervous system, you see that the increase in blood flow is very moderate. During active hyperemia, you have such an increase in blood flow that sympathetic nervous system cannot explain that. And you see here also an active hyperemia. You see just this difference between these two curves, the sympathetic nervous system, and the rest must be something else. So what could it be? It can be local activity-dependent vasodilators. And we often used to call them metabolites. For example, this says potassium plays an important role. This is not metabolite. That's why I prefer to speak of activity-dependent vasodilators. And what do we see here? We have a small arteriole with only one layer of dark, smooth muscle, the endothelial cells within, and the surrounding tissue. Yeah? So what happens now in a muscle when you have exercise? Of course, you have a higher oxygen consumption, and you produce more carbon dioxide in the citrate cycle. And you break down ATP, so you have more adenosine. And you have these compounds can come from the tissue, diffuse through the smooth muscle, and relax it. Yeah? If we have not enough blood flow, there will be anaerobic mechanism, and we produce lactate and ions, and we have a decrease in PO2. And this also can directly affect the vascular smooth muscle to relax it. And then we have potassium, and potassium is always released in enhanced amounts in electrically active tissues, like the brain or the muscle, because with every action potential during repolarization, you have an efflux of potassium. And this is so much in highly active tissues that it cannot be removed quickly enough. So for example, in skeletal muscles, the potassium increases from 5 to about 10 in the local tissue. You would die if this would reach your heart, but in muscle, it can do good work, so to speak. Now, these factors here have all specific mechanisms. For example, you see potassium can induce hyperpolarization a negative membrane potential in vascular smooth muscle, which prevents influx of calcium, and therefore relaxation. And you see, nearly all these compounds affect potassium channels. And if you activate the potassium channels, you induce hypopolarization. There are a few compounds that have also direct effect on L-type calcium channels. And Ray gave us an example for lactate yesterday. And there are also other compounds like ATP that acts on the endothelium and releases nitric oxide, which can work through second messengers like cyclic GMP or cyclic AMA. But all these activity-dependent dilators are very powerful. Most of them work through hypopolarization in the microcirculation, and that is what we know. And they are the substances that really induce this impressive vasodilatation. Now, however, the question is, since we need to affect all blood vessels all along the perfusion units, how do the signals generated in the distal part of the tissue, how do they reach the more proximal parts? Because all of them have to dilate simultaneously in a coordinated manner. And basically there are two possibilities. One, we could have venous blood draining the tissue and bringing these metabolites via bloodstream to the upstream vessels. That could work in some tissues, but in most tissues, the veins that outflow do not parallel the arteries that inflow. So it is not a good thing to do. The other possibility is that these local tissue activity signals generate local signals in remote vessels, and that this signal is then somehow transferred upstream to induce vasodilatation. And this is indeed the case. You see, again, this drawing, when this muscle tissue is our model, and you see here that we can apply very locally acetylcholine. Acetylcholine is a massive stimulator of the endothelium, and in the microcirculation, it hyperpolarizes endothelial cells. Okay? So if we do that, what do we expect? We expect a local vasodilatation. When we look at this very vessel here, you see this is a rapid transient vasodilatation because we give only a spot of acetylcholine. Now the interesting thing is, if we apply once again acetylcholine here, but look further upstream, you see you have also a vasodilatation. And it happens nearly at the time when, like the local reaction. And if you look further upstream, you see you have also a vasodilatation. So some signal has been transferred via the endothelium, obviously, because this is the hyperpolarization mechanism that is causing that. And we call this the so-called conducted vasodilatation, because it is conducted upstream. Now, I said already that the endothelium acts at the signaling pathway, and the question is, what could be used as the transfer at the signaling pathway? And there we have to look at the vessels, and we have to look at the innermost layer, the endothelium, and this is separated by a basal membrane with holes. This is the gray structure here, and below that is the smooth muscle. And what we see now is that the endothelial cells, schematically, are connected to each other via gap junctions. And gap junctions are places of low electrical resistance. And you see, we have also gap junctions in smooth muscle, and we have even gap junctions, but only in the microcirculation, between endothelial cells and the smooth muscle cells. And we have gap junctions are formed of connexins. We have 21 connexins, but only 3 are expressed in the endothelium. Connexin 40, connexin 37, and connexin 42. Now, due to cooperation with Klaus Willecke, we had the chance to use connexin 40 knockout mice. And if something is happening here, and if they play a role, we should see an attenuation of this conductive dilation. And this is, I have to go back. You will see the next peak, or the third next is what I want to show. But I couldn't resist to put this in the last evening because it shows you that gap junctions can do an amazing couple of things. These are cultured endothelial cells. They are loaded with a calcium indicator, and blue is low calcium. Yellow and red is high calcium. Now we apply to this endothelial layer histamine. Would you start? And you see what happens. In nearly no time, all endothelial cells react with an increase in calcium. Yeah? But if you look a little bit more closely, you say, oh no, it doesn't happen at the same time everywhere. There must be something that is transferred. Yeah? And we said, wow, that could be gap junctions. So we blocked the gap junctions with heptanol. Now we go to the next one, please. Okay, and start again. And these are the cells again with histamine. But only a few of them respond. The rest does nothing. So it's the gap junction that harmonizes the whole endothelial layer. And this next slide, please. Thank you. This can be shown if you look in these endothelial cells. All of them have an endothelial marker, but only half of them have histamine receptors. So it's in fact the gap junctions that control how much these endothelial cells react to histamine. And this is a caveat when you look at marvelous omics, because omics can only average over all cells, and they cannot detect that there are perhaps pacemaker cells, that there's a regulation ongoing, and that perhaps the expression of some gene has little effect because it's not coordinated. Yeah? So be careful if you interpret such studies. Now, I'm coming back now to what I said before. How can acetylcholine induce such a conductive dilation? And what you see here is a muscarinic receptor, and this is work mainly by Steve Siegel, for example, or by some Canadian groups. This is not our work, I refer to it. And you see that acetylcholine is closely coupled with a trip channel, and when we use acetylcholine and binds to the receptor, then this trip channel opens and calcium enters the endothelial cells. And there's an increase in local calcium, and this activated calcium-activatable potassium channels. So when the calcium increases, you have activation of these potassium channels, and the result is hyperpolarization. Since this vessel, this cell is now hyperpolarized, and this isn't yet, there will be a flow through gap junctions to the neighboring cell. This activates voltage-sensitive inward rectifying potassium channels. We have a hyperpolarization here as well. A hyperpolarization is always the driving force in endothelial cells for calcium to come in. And you have the same game again. You have the activation of the calcium in activatable potassium channels, and so goes it forth and forth. Although there is some attenuation because you lose some of the current the membrane. There is good work showing that in old people, for example, the setting of these channels is less, and therefore they have less conductive dilation. And this may happen in many other cases. And what happens if you have less conductive dilation? You see the remote responses here in red are reduced, whereas the green responses are always the local responses which we induce at the distant point. And this was the first evidence that one of the endothelial connexins, connexin 40, plays an important role in this conductive dilation. And this work has been done by Witt, who was at that time one of my best co-workers in the lab. He is now independent professor in the north of Germany, but I like to show him in his action as soccer game, and he is a hard player, I can tell you, and he's a hard worker. And now you see also that when you reduce connexin 40 and induce increased blood flow, these are the upper curves here, with increasing stimulation of the muscle, and when you reduce the connexin, or in the connexin knockout mice, you have much reduction of this increased blood flow. So if you have a damage or an inhibition of your gap junctions, you may not be able to work hard again. You are not good in exercising because this is missing. And we are just beginning to understand how this regulation could happen. The muscle where we do our studies is not the only experiment or organ where this happens. These are work from Nelson's lab in America, and they have very sophisticated isolated capillaries from the brain with the adhering or feeding arterioles. Green is the endothelium of the capillaries, and here you see in red the arterioles, the smooth muscle and such. And they apply then with a pipette here potassium. Remember, this induces hypopolarization. And when they do though, they see upstream here a vasodilatation. This is also a conducted dilation via the endothelium. And you see here, when they stimulate here, they see here a vasodilation, and when they have, they remove one of the potassium channels important for the conductive dilation, they have no dilation anymore. So it happens in muscle and brain, but also in many other organs. In the study of Nelson, they think that they're directly stimulating the capillary endothelium. But we must not forget that in the capillaries, you see here a skeletal muscle, there are on top of the endothelium, there are the pericytes. Yeah? And we reasoned that pericytes might be detectors or sensors to affect the calcium influx through L-type calcium channels. Now, it is evident that there must be a lot of regulation. And so far, we know a little bit, mainly from the work of Brent Isaacson at the University of Missouri, but we do not know enough for what's happening here. We have concentrated on another thing. We have looked how many of these myoendothelial gap junctions are existing in an arteriole. And so we did some work, microscopical work, and you see here, we went through optically through the basal membrane, which is between the endothelium and the smooth muscle, and you see the holes in the basal membrane where potentially myoendothelial junctions can go through. And we can identify these myoendothelial junctions because they have an actin core, and this actin core can be made visible. And this, by the way, these lengthy cells, oh sorry, did I switch it off? Or? I see. Okay, I can continue. They can be identified by this actin core, and now we can look whether these gap junctions that are myoendothelial junctions change their number over time. And there is some spontaneous change, and this spontaneous change that is slow, but it happens. But we found out that, for example, inhibition of an enzyme, AMPK, drastically increases the number of myoendothelial junctions, and that must have some effect. We have not studied this functionally, but we have found that we can affect the number of myoendothelial junctions considerably. So there is regular, at that time with slides, and I had these thick German slides. And they were all used to small slides. And there I gave, and I started my talk, and then the slider blocked. And not only that, all fuses blew. And this was the only time in my life when I gave a full presentation in a totally dark room. So we are a little bit better off here. So the take-home message is the microcirculation is essential for the function of all organs. Without microcirculation, no supply and no life. The second thing is the regulation happens at the level of arterioles. And these arterioles need to respond in a coordinated manner, not just locally. They behave as perfusion units. And to coordinate them under conditions of exercise, we need local activity dilators that hyperpolarize the endothelium. And then we have this conducted signal upstream. And via the myoendothelial junctions, you have then the relaxation of smooth muscle. And if this does not work, you have a fair reduction of your work capacity. And we are just beginning to understand how we can regulate them. I felt so bad, I could sell so much more. But I had to restrict myself to this conducted dilation today. And I hope you enjoyed it. I have no visual word at the end except Asante. Asante Sana. Okay. And yeah, I'm ready for discussions later if you want to know more. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you so much. We have one more presentation before we invite our presenters for discussion. Professor Simiat Elias. I think she was here before, so most of you know her, from AlNeelain University, Kenya. She's the co-chair of the board of the General Assembly, IUPS, and she's going to speak about incorporating active learning into the teaching of physiology. So Professor will continue for as little time as possible, and then we'll go to the discussion.
Thank you so much for the introduction. Thank you. My name is Simiat, Elias, and well, originally from Nigeria. Today I'm speaking to you as the founding chair of Biomedical Sciences of the AlNeelain University. We just started the undergraduate medical program, Our first cohort of students came in September. At the same time, we started the Bachelor of Nursing Science program, undergraduate, for the first time direct entry, and they also came in September. I started teaching them on the 18th of September, and this presentation will let you see what we've done so far with that. Before we start, I'd like for us all to please stand up, kindly. Let's stand up. If you can stretch, if you don't want to stretch, feel like you want to stretch, but if you don't want to stretch, just collect your thoughts for 30 seconds. I want to stretch. So now let's collect our thoughts. And then I'm going to ask you to think on your way here, on your way to Tanzania, not to this venue, on your way to Tanzania from wherever you started off. What was the most interesting thing that happened to you? And I'm just going to take 3 responses. What was the most interesting thing that happened to you on your way to Tanzania? Just.
I'm from Tanzania.
Oh! Most interesting.
I was sick on board the plane.
Yes. Oh, so sorry. Pohl, we say? Swahili? Oh, okay. That's somebody else not from Tanzania. That's the second person. Most interesting thing.
Thank you. My name is Ketau Tsagay from Addis Ababa, Ethiopia. And then I was planned to come at November 28, but I missed a flight by 16 and then coming the next day.
Okay, Pohl, sorry. From Kenya?
The most important thing is to see from up there this wonderful landscape.
Yeah. Wow. Let's talk about ourselves. Can you sit down? Thank you. Thank you. Please sit down. So, I'm going to be talking about incorporating active learning into physiology. And while I'm waiting for my slides, what we just went through is actually one of the things that we do in active learning. You want to engage your learners from the beginning, so you do a bridge in. Now we are all, I hope, interested in listening to what I have to say about active learning, even before the slides do come up. Again, I'm thankful to the AlNeelain University because one of the things that is a bedrock of teaching there is active learning. We're a student-centered learning environment. Our teaching, our training is all about our students. And so what I've learned over the years from the Physiological Society, TPS, from the American Physiological Society, APS, and from the Physiological Society of Nigeria by being a member of the education. That way, they engage with the material and they get better. Okay? Now, Benjamin Franklin had said it all those years ago when he said, "Tell me and I forget." So I stand in front of a class and I rattle. It goes in here, it comes out here. Yeah. Teach me and I remember. So you teach me, you put me on the bike, and then you involve me, I never forget. That's what active learning is all about, and we can do it with the teaching of physiology. Now, there are many processes that you can use with active learning. Talking and listening. So when you talk and the students listen, you have to take it further. You have to ask them questions, ask them to relate what they've had with previous knowledge, to analyze what they've just heard, ask them to discuss amongst one another. That way, you're converting your class into an active learning room. And then you don't talk forever. Try and include them. Make it interactive. Ask questions. Let them do some activities as you go on with the class. With writing, because students are sitting down there wanting to write, they're writing. But what are they writing? What are they writing? So you come in with some activities again. This will help them to organize their thoughts and to put together, add what they just hearing from you to what they heard before, and then learning will occur. So it cannot be learning, it can never be passive. It can never be passive. It must always be active. When you ask students to read, which of course they have to do, at the end of that reading, how do you gauge their understanding? So don't just assume that they've read something. If you send them materials to read, videos to watch, and the lessons that you have pre-recorded, ask them quizzes. Ask them to summarize what they've learned. Give them opportunity to post what they've learned, maybe on the wall or the class, not physical wall, but sometimes you could also use physical wall, that's all you have. Okay? On the VLE, virtual learning environment, they have walls, they let them post what they have. So that way, you will gauge their learning. And they also know that you'll be asking them, so they will interact and interact positively. I'm saying this because it's also possible for students. We have discussed that you want to know how many minutes a student spends with your material online. And so you, this candidate was there for 15 minutes, this one was there for 1 hour. What were they doing? They could have put on the system and actually go to watch a movie. Yes. So, but if you ask questions and they know your recognition, big word, but means very little. It's an ability for you to dig in to your thinking process and actually be able to say, oh, what do I know? What am I thinking about this word? Another. So that ability to question yourself, to dig into your thinking process is referred to as metacognition. So you can be thinking, what is the assignment going to achieve? This reminds me of, because new knowledge, the only way you can gain new knowledge is by relating it to what you learned previously. One of our presenters was telling us about eating scorpion yesterday. Scorpion, somebody? Yes. And then he realized that it actually tasted like something he had eaten a long time ago. So now he's not thinking it is scorpion, but it is that thing. He's able to relate. So you need to join one information to the other for learning to occur. So metacognition, I'm figuring out. So sometimes you give assignments to students, you ask them to start their reflection by, what did you get from that presentation? I am wondering, I am surprised that they should start like that. And that way, they can actually realize, oh, what did I learn? What is new? Why am I surprised? And things like that. So these are traditional classroom setting, and I hope some people can still remember. So, in order to be able to ensure that our students are learning actively, you prepare the mind of the students. You let them know this is what we're going to be doing. I'm not just going to be at the center filling your empty vessels with information. That way, a pre-work autonomic nervous system, and then they pay to class and you are teaching reproduction. All right? So you need to be able to ensure that the pre-class information and what you're doing in class, the time. Now you encourage the students to participate, and they will do this if they feel that they're in a safe environment. You're not making remarks that will make them feel that, oh, I am foolish. Next time, they will not open their mouths. So we need to find ways of encouraging them to participate. So again, what we did earlier on, when I was asking you questions, those were individual activities, right? So the many individual activities that you could do, 1 minute paper, can do at the beginning of a class, or you can do at the end of a class. At the beginning of the class, to assess what they know. At the end of the class, to find out how they've grown from when they entered the classroom. Reflective journals, quizzes, and some presentation response. Like I mentioned earlier, ask them to start their response by saying, oh, I was surprised that, so they need to find what, were they surprised by anything that group said? I learned that. I still wonder about. So if they have any gaps, then you would learn those gaps and you can, bridge the gap for them. So now, I would like for you to please turn to the person next to you, turn left and left one, and discuss, agree on one thing that you took home with you from this meeting yesterday. Just one thing, just agree on one thing. I'm not seeing anybody turning. What was the stage home? Okay, let's do the session. Let me give you a session, please. We had a session on the taste of fat. We had a session on the taste of fat. What did you take home from Friday? So I tell them what I do with them is weakest link. And I've been doing that for like 10, 15 years. What I call weakest link. The member of the group who scores the least in presenting will determine the score of the entire group. So, if you are 8, I will call anybody in no particular order to present. And as you are going on, I will stop you and the next person will take over from you. And whoever presents and scores the least mark will determine the mark of the group. Guess what? They make sure everybody in the group has a good grasp of what they're going to present. And it has helped over the years. And it's helped this group as well. Yeah. So, that's your job. Go around the room, find out where they need help and you help them along. One of the things they do also is to make concept notes. It's an active learning thing. This, would you believe they made this on the first day? That was on the 18th of September. Okay? Because they were learning and they had given them the materials and in class we discussed and that sit down and now tell me as a group what you know, what you understand about these organisms. I just put 3 of the 8 groups there. Then, here, oh, okay, I was giving it to me. This was supposed to play, it's not playing. It's supposed to play, and you see a child trying to fix here. Thank you. So this jigsaw puzzle, what we do with this, you give a question to the groups, a different question to one group, to the next, and all. When they're done, maybe you give them 20 minutes to do the work. You then ask only maybe one person in that group to remain, The remaining 7 will go to the other groups, and those other ones will come fill. So you have a mix from the different groups in the different groups. And then the person that has remained on that table now tells them what that group was all about. If their work was about simple diffusion or facilitate, whatever it was, he will now teach them, the new group members, what they have learned. And that helped. So I'll go first now. So in this cohort of students that came into the class, all the learning is flipped. You give them the work materials at home, they read, they watch the videos, they do whatever, and then they come to class and we do the quizzes, case-based learning, all sorts of activities, group presentations, and all that we did for 6 weeks. After 6 weeks, we had announced they had their schedule ahead. They now had to do their first assessment. Okay? The first assessment was a 1-hour multiple response question style comprising 40 stamps, and each with 5 options, so they had to answer true or false. But there was no negative marking because the Japan university principle is that we do not do negative marking. So the students did that test, and guess what? Before I show you this, they came out of the test, and there was a review by the School of Nursing, and Simiat is so harsh. Simiat does not allow us to relax in the classroom. Simiat is so demanding. Okay, so the associate dean calls me and tells me this is what they're saying about you, but I think it's this, it's that, so we resolved it and we went our way. Then the results came out, and this is a cut-off mark, that's a pass mark for School of Nursing, 60%. That's where they all are, or they all went. Now we look at the groups. Some of the groups are almost homogeneous in their scores, saying that they were really working well together. Yes? Yeah. This group had the highest and the lowest. Unfortunately, this student was not supposed to score this mark. She was one of the most brilliant in the class. So I had to call all of them who were below 60, and I engaged with them. What happened? Oh, she said she was poorly, she didn't know what she was eating, she needed to go to the washroom, and she was afraid to ask permission because it was a 1-hour paper, and all she could think of, I want to go to the washroom, I want to go to the washroom. So at the end of the day, she had the lowest mark, just shy of 50%, and now she has to work her way back up. Okay? And again, it's the same result set, and you can see the ranges and the means. So after this, they were initially reluctant to participate. They felt it was too harsh, I was this and that. Now, they're so happy in class. In fact, I see them smiling, or if I set any question, any task, they're so happily doing it. And the most interesting was when they had their white coat ceremony that the School of Nursing organized to welcome them. That was about 3 weeks ago. I had attended, and then I left the room, went back to my duties. And I started getting calls. Professor Simiat, where are you? Professor Simiat, where are you? I'm in my office where I should be. I said, no, the students want you. They're shouting, they're saying they're not going to leave the podium until I come take a picture of them. Oh, Professor Simiat is harsh. She's too demanding. So now they understand, they appreciate this active learning, which actually I'm not the only one doing it, or I'm not the only one supposed to be doing it. This is an Agacan policy, which we're following, and now they are so happy, and I think that their test scores may have actually helped along to bring them along. So please, some of us would say that we have 300 students, we have 150 students, there's always something that we can apply to help the students learn in an active manner, so that you move from the center of the stage and you are side there as a facilitator of learning. Okay, they are not empty vessels that we need to fill. They do have some information, and we can help them further by always giving them something to learn about what we want to discuss in the classroom before they do come to your class. And because you said that significant learning occurs when the learners are actively participating and they're going beyond rote learning to higher order thinking. Of course, in the abstract, I mentioned that the assessments are different for this kind of learning, and we hope that we'll have time at some other point to talk about the assessments. So, this activity is for all of you, profs and everybody. Always give a post-class activity. So they come into your class thinking about the pre-class activity, they participate in class, and they're going away reflecting about what you have asked them to do outside of the class. All right? So at all times, the students are engaged with learning. Even when they're sitting down with one another, because self-directed learning, there's always something for them to do. All right, Asante Sana. AlNeelain University, where I now am. Asante.
Thank you so much. Now we have had those three presentations. I'd like to call them here. Professor Lamis, Professor Ulrich, and Professor Simiat. We can now have some discussion, question for those three presentations. While they're sitting, I will start. I will welcome questions, comments.
Yes, okay. Thank you very much for three communications. I well appreciate the last communication of Simiat as it concerns all of us, and very, very well appreciated. That is a good method to teach or to involve, because now we don't need to inform or to teach or to involve students in the learning now. That is a very good method. Maybe we can share the presentation as we can distribute or disseminate the method in our university also. Good method. Active learning in physiology, not only for physiology, but for all disciplines that we teach or we teach in the university or in the small class also. But my question is for the big group. In our university, you have, in the first class, you have over, in my university, we have over 1,000 students in the same class. How do we now we divide into, if you have over 1,000, we divide the university, divide into maybe 2 or 3 groups. So you have almost 300 or 400 students. How can you apply? Do you have any idea to share with us? That is my question. Thank you.
Thank you. We are taking questions, comments. Yes.
For example, any variation depending on the two modalities that one of them may be predisposed to, or vice versa, for example, autoimmune condition to the gut, etc. That may maybe disadvantage a unit for the life.
Thank you. My name is Mr. Sama, I'm Professor of Sedoma, and my question mostly goes to Professor Lamis. You mentioned about the gut bone marrow axis, and one of the ways the mediators is short chain fatty acids, which I assume maybe they are most metabolized from the oligosaccharides. So my question is there a potential maybe using maybe drugs that activate the fatty acid oxidation? Because we know that would that be a potential therapeutic option maybe? And another one is what's so special about the gut microbiota? Why not maybe the urinary microbiota? Or do they have any effect also on the gut, the bone marrow axis and digest? Yes. Like the question is, what's so special about the gut microbiota? Why not about the microbiota? Or is there any role of the microbiota from other areas? Let's say the genitourinary will also have the same effect on the bone marrow axis. And how about also the infectious microbiota as well? Because one of the mechanisms is through the LCS, which could also be found in infectious bacteria like the staph aureus, for instance. And another one is for Professor Ulrich. I'm just interested on could natural vasodilators like nitrogen dioxide as well as the vasoconstrictors such as endothelin-1, do they also have the effect on those gap junctions we're talking about, or their mechanism is a bit different from that? Thank you.
Thank you. I am Shubi from the University of Dodoma as well. And my question goes to Professor Ulrich. Yeah, I'm wondering about this conductive vasodilatation, because ultimately the circulatory system is one giant network. So can you say something about the reach of this conduction of signal? So is there some mechanism for demarcation?
Let me ask them to answer this first, and then we'll take another set of questions.
Thank you for your very generous comments, Mr. Kaddam. In a large class, I mean, you described 300, some 400, there are different methods that can be used. Of course, you will have to divide them into groups because they will not be able to do individual presentations, okay? They are doing presentations, so you have to divide them into groups. And then what will also help is if you have maybe teaching assistants or other colleagues who can also come into the room with you. Okay, so and there you would also have taught what you expect the students to know, and they would help you keep the students on task by going around the room as a way they're also doing that. So there is always a way when there is a way. I've heard this comment a lot of times that, oh, we have large classes in Africa, how are we going to cope, and all this. There is always something that you can do. First, you do the work in groups, you get colleagues to assist you, as you will also be assisting them. Okay? And if there are no colleagues and you use your tutorial assistants, we're available. I know again, there's some universities that do not have tutorial fellows, but there will always be somebody who can share the room with you. And if there is not, then you make to divide them into maybe groups of 20, groups of 8, because 8 will not work for you. You have groups of 20 and then you go around. And you divide the time amongst all of them. As long as you set them the work to do, and they know that yes, they are learning, and you create a safe environment for them to make their mistakes and ask questions that you give prompt feedback. Okay, as we go from one group to the other and then asking the question, you are also giving them the feedback. Alright? And do not turn the classroom into another teaching time. So they ask you questions, if there's some that really genuinely you know they will not be able to answer, you answer. But the ones that, oh, from what the task have set you, you should have come across the response to this. Why don't you look again? So that empowers them, that makes them want to actually work harder and find the answer. And when they do, they own that information. Because when you tell them most of the time, students will stand up and say, you said, and I'll tell them, no, it's not about what I said, it's about what you know or what you understand, or what is your question. So do not get into that rut of actually now teaching them all over again. Now is to clarify issues for them and make sure they have a better understanding. Okay? I hope that helps.
Yes. Sorry for this question. Because about your experience, what about the time? Because me, I guess that we need more time to apply this method. I don't know. You can ask about your experience. Do we need more time or less time when you compare the both methods? And this, it means that you need colleagues, assistants. So that is very wonderful problem in our university. So you need time, you have to, because after they do the work group, you have to verify to know if the answer are right or not. So you need time to do all this. That is the problem.
Secondly, teaching using active learning techniques require more of the facilitator, of the faculty. So you need to have, you need more time to give them outside of the class, and also give them what you do not have to mark each script. You do not have to read each script. They can't do that for you. And then you moderate what you expected them to have given you in response at the end of the class.
And
yes.
At the end, you give them the answer.
If necessary.
The right answer. If necessary.
Because they would have found it out themselves.
Thank you, the trust. You asked what affects the gut microbiota in neonates. Till now, they are speaking about that mode of delivery, as I told you, because the neonate gets the microbiota from his mouth. The type of feeding, because that microbiota is fed on high fiber on diet, on fibers. So the mother have oligosaccharides. Now have been recently added milk formula, but breastfeeding will ensure more diverse and abundance of healthy microbiota. Other thing, extreme hygiene. Now all our kids never play on the floor, never play in sands at all. And if we did so, we'll be as a very bad mom. But our kids, they need to be there. So, not all the time, but they have to. Actually, they found that even helminthids have their own initiation of moderation of microbiota and regulation of innate and adaptive immunity. Now it's almost missing. And as I said, they found that in high-income Western countries, the incidence of food allergies and autoimmune, like for example, asthma and so on, food allergies is very common compared like in Africa. I don't think you ever see aminonut allergy in Kenya. In Sudan, I never see. We eat it every day. So this is one of the one things I love. That's the hygiene, the environment, breastfeeding, and the mobility. And this is why now people should think twice of having a cesarean section unless there is strong indication for it. Is it satisfying? You ask about short-chain fatty acids. Short-chain fatty acids it's amazing. Do everything. It's strong anti-inflammatory, it's immunomodulative, it works almost in every disease. But the problem is that, as I said, during the presentations, they have very short half-life because they are short-chain fatty acids. In a trial was done to give them as fetal-inducing agents, you can say anemia. They give like 40 taps, or you have to give them IV infusions. It's difficult to get the pharmacologic substance. This one we can think that prebiotic or probiotic that are capable of increasing. Actually, this is the definition of prebiotic agents, that it selectively enrich a community of microbiota to increase the number of the level of short fatty acid in the serum. Probiotic, as I said, they are getting ready-made bacteria. So this is. And
my question was, is it possible if we could activate the fatty acid oxidation to have more short-chain fatty acids? Like, I understand the root of prebiotics, but what if there's a way to activate fatty acid oxidation so that the long
yeasts and erythromyces, how they can work as anti-inflammatory endogenous.
How about the microbiota from other areas, or the infected ones?
What?
Let's say LPS from Staph aureus. Would we also have this?
Yes, I said that we can't start emptiness. So if we reduce the number of commensals at least, commensals are neutralizing, they will be occupied by pathogenic microbacteria. This is what people are thinking, and this explains why many of antibiotics will end up with diarrhea, because they're post-antibiotic diarrhea. This is because now we have a disturbance in the community of microbiota.
So I will start with the question back there. This conductive dilation, the range is between 1 and several milliliters. This seems to be enough for these perfusion units. And the length is not really predictable because it depends on the electrical resistance of the gap junctions, which can be regulated. Higher resistance means lower distance. And also on the membrane resistance. If you use more electric current underway, the response will fade out earlier. So that is, what I would say is, the range is enough to be more, to serve the purposes of these perfusion units. The larger vessels, the small arteries, for example, or the feeding arteries, which supply these arterioles, they probably dilate mainly by another dilation, and this is the shear stress-induced dilation. Whenever you have an increase in blood flow in an area, you have an increase in shear stress, and the endothelium responds to this increase in shear stress by producing more nitric oxide. And the larger vessels are anyway more nitric oxide dependent, and the small arterioles are more endothelium-dependent hyperpolarization vessels. I hope this answers your question. And coming back to your question, that is a very good question, and you were very observant. So, first of all, the transmission to smooth muscle can happen in several ways. Since your endothelial cell is hyperpolarizing, you can directly transfer hyperpolarization to the smooth muscle. It depends how much the sink is, how big the sink is, whether it can induce very much or not. But the endothelial, the smooth muscle cells are not that well coupled, so you're not losing too much current to the branch. Then this hyperpolarization also activates these immunorectifying potassium channels, and that means potassium is released, and you do not necessarily need calcium. Yeah? And the calcium that comes down to the microendothelial junction is a potential problem, because if the calcium goes to smooth muscle, then it contracts, whereas the endothelium wants to dilate.
That's what
And the answer is, this calcium from the endothelium can hardly reach the smooth muscle, because, for example, in connexin 13-7 gap junctions, nitric oxide blocks the permeability for calcium from the endothelium down to smooth muscle. The other way around does really exist. If smooth muscle cells have a lot of calcium to contract, some of the calcium goes up to the endothelium, induces hyperpolarization, and stops further contraction. So it seems a little bit a one-way street, although one cannot be sure under all experimental conditions. Yeah? Does it answer your question? Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you. I missed the questions. Someone asked me a question I didn't answer. Because I found myself writing a note.
Just so many people have questions. One, you have spoken already. One, two, three, and four. Yes, 4 people. You see 1, 2, 3, and 4. Yes.
Start from the back, come forward.
There.
You may be given.
You have spoken so many times.
You may be given 0.5 minutes to say.
0 minutes.
In that way now, the weakest link is being pulled up while the very highest one. You come to the middle and I'll use the example you gave about the nursing students. You notice that majority of them are what I saw, more than 89% pass. But then somebody scored very low, and it was not easy because the person was not intelligent, but he was always going to watch my other. That's how they call it that. So if that class is considered as a group, does it now mean that a class that more than 90%, but if we give the score of the weakest thing, it will make the whole class better. So I think an average to, will be better, the score for that group. Even though if somebody is weak, the score for that will get if you consider. I'm sure you also consider how the others presented before you give that score. That's another work average. I think that's my contribution.
In the interest of time, my question is to the Professor Simiat and Ulrich. I think it's a follow-up on this teaching method. We have very big groups like colleagues have said, and one of the challenges I find is the attitudes of the new generation. They are very casual about learning. And sometimes even when you give assignments and you tell them to make use of resources like the library journals and so on, you find there is a lot of reluctance. Now, for some of us, and I'll give my example.
There was never a time that the group scored less than 7 because they carried one another along. But if they knew that it was going to be an average, why should I bother? Okay, somebody's going to get 10 anyway, and somebody will get 4, and then why not high, and then we'll get 5, and we all happy. So I think that when I introduce, and it's not the first time I'm doing it, I was doing it in Nigeria, and my students actually learned, they appreciated it. Okay, so if we would just try it, just the fact that you told them, the fact that you tell them that whoever gets the weakest, least score, who's going to represent the group, you will see the way they will change in attending to the question. Yes. And then the assessments that we did, that's individual, that's MCQ, multiple response question. So if somebody took ill, we're not going to award the mark of somebody else to that person. All right, so that was individual, and there will always be individual examinations. About attitude, yes, I noticed that when I got to Nairobi. When the students gave me that feedback, the review that they gave to the School of Nursing about me, one of the things that the associate dean appreciated was the difference in culture. In Nigeria, our medical students, School of Nursing students, anybody in the College of Medicine, they're very serious. They may be playful, they may want to not listen, but because there are rules, at least where I worked, Lagos State University, there are rules of engagement. They know that when they come to school, it is serious work in the College of Medicine. It's different from other schools. Now, what I did with the students, just to buttress the fact about attitude, when I first met them, I said, oh yeah, this is it. So we had a flip chart on the wall, and I said, now we're going to agree on the rule of engagement. Okay? So they made the rules. We all agreed. what do you think we should do in this classroom? We say, oh, we must respect one another, put it on the wall. Oh, no phones should be beeping, put it on the wall. Oh, this. So we had 12 rules on the wall. And we would guide ourselves, our engagement with that. So that was my number one problem with them. They said, oh, she gave us rules. I didn't give them the rules. They set the rules. Okay? The other thing about the fact that we want to use gadgets. Fortunately now at Japan, the policy is bring the gadgets into the room. And if you saw some of the slides I showed you, they actually had the laptops in front of them. So you set them tasks that will enable them to use their gadgets. That way, you will retain their attention. But if you say, shut your laptop, no phones, no this or that, then you will lose them immediately. Okay? So, it now depends on them. They now have to own their own learning. They have to know that when I'm in class, I'm not going to be on TikTok, I'm not going to be on whatever else they're on. I need to use this gadget to do my work. So they allow their gadgets. Nobody's going to say, shut your gadgets. And once you do that, they're happy. So, but the attitude of not wanting to learn, you have to find a way. And one of the things, as I was saying, if I got to read by myself, was that the lady told me, the associate told me that, I don't know how far it's true, but she's in Kenya, and she said, oh, these are students who have grown with no rules. That in Kenya, you cannot say, stop doing that. Sit down there, stand up there. They can take you to court. Yes, that was what I was told. But I said, I'm training medical students, I'm training School of Nursing students, and we made the rules together. Guess what? Today, they use those rules in engaging with the other faculty of their own volition, because now they're used to it. Okay? When you have your gadget, use it for classwork. But if you do go on using it to talk to somebody, it's on your own, that's your own decision. They're adults. I can't go check in, are you on TikTok? No, that's not my job. My job is I set you what to do, you all do it, and you bring it to report when we ask you to report. So about large student size, student number, yes, we all deal with this one way or the other. Also again, I think I was lucky I've had the most I've ever had in training medical students is 110 in my class. So I feel for you if you've got 300 or 500, but active learning actually helps you at the end of the day. It is not about what they score in the exam only, it's about understanding of the concepts that you're teaching them. And if you use this, if you set them tasks, okay, as groups, they will learn from one another. Eventually they'll make your work easier. And they will come out better. Yes, at some point you have to stand and tell them, explain some mechanisms to them. At some point you have to give them life experiences, all well and good. But what we're saying is, let us stop treating our students as if they're empty vessels. And you know what, I'm sure, when you finish your 3-hour lecture, whatever number of hours you do, and you ask them any question, what do they say? No question. Yes. Do you all understand? Yes, we do. But in active learning, that cannot happen because you are actively asking questions. You are engaging them. You're stopping your lecture and discussing things with them. And they're giving you feedback. So there's no way that you not learn in this kind of manner. I think we should try it. Like I said, I've been learning about this many years. This silver thing, many of the great professors in physiology have been talking about it, and I have been trying to do, a little bit of it in Lagos State University. But here at Japan, it's expected of us. So the museum was asking, that is anatomy doing the same thing, is biochemistry doing the same thing? Yes, because we're actually trained. You have to have some training before you're exposed to the students. And it is expected that you do that. If you do not, then you're breaching some of the things, the policies that you have agreed to uphold. So everybody is expected to do that. In fact, when we build cases, the cases that we build goes they go across the disciplines. Because we teach in an integrated manner. So we're teaching cardiovascular system, he's doing heart anatomy, she's doing, you understand? So our cases we can use across the disciplines, and we can also use in later years. So it's a lot of effort, I agree with Professor Kadiri. It's a lot of effort, but it's yielding. We can see it in the students that we teach. And manual for active learning in physiology. Oh, Susan Ray left the room, but I'm sure Barman will tell her. We need a manual for active learning in physiology. We have a lot of medical educators in physiology. I'm sure if this is not already existing, it's something that can be done. Yes?
Yeah, so what Sue Ray told me to say was we'll look into it, because if there's somebody that might...
The resting conditions, the influence of the sympathetic nervous system, at least in the anesthetized animal, is limited. Yeah? And in addition to this, if you have then want to induce a further vasodilation, there is no way just to block or to run the particles down. You need these local vasodilators. And to clarify, we never used sympathetic inhibitors. It was only in that study where they wanted to show the contribution. Of course, narcosis can always, anesthesia can always affect it to some extent, but we are working in the intact system. Okay. So.
All right. Thank you. I know some people still have questions, still have some things, but I will advise that we do that during lunch. You can see any of them and discuss about it. And now we will go for lunch, and because of time, I'm requesting you that we take only 30 minutes.
Enjoy our taste buds.
Yeah.
Just spray your mouth with that something to do.
So we'll be back. Before we go, I have just two announcements. Thank you very much. Can we put our hands together for our presenters? Okay, now we can, I have just two announcements. One, there are some people who have requested for post-conference tour registration. You can go outside, there's somebody there, so he will ask you, you can register. If you have any questions about the price, about where and everything, you can talk to that person. Also, there are some who went to that tour yesterday and they have not paid. And it's outside there, you can do the payment as well. But can we take just 30 minutes for lunch and come back here around at 2:15? Thank you.